start Parshas Vayigash, page 88, second column, third line from the top. We're going to start, okay. So it says, Yosef gathered all the levels of kesef, all the money, which is a level, like you said, of ahava, because Yosef is there, the one that Yesod, and gathers it, and then he brings it down, and he explains this Dava Mesoteres, the hidden ahava, the revealed ahava, and so on. So he says now, this the union of Sholish, Matmonius, Hitman, Yosef, these are the three treasures that Yosef hid. Hine Yador B'Kisvi Arizal. She says, and Arizal writes, Chesed, the Heichsadim that come from Zoh, and Chesed of Teferes is Chalik El Gimel Prokim. It's divided to three parts. The attribute of Chesed, Arizal writes, is divided into three parts. Shlisha Aliyah in the Bechinas Telem V'Hester is one part of Chesed. The top part of Chesed is concealment, and it's called Chsadim Mechusim, the hidden Chesed. And then there is Beis, Shlishim is Galim, and 2/3 of Chesed are revealed. So he says, what happened by Yosef's hiding? One was revealed to Kairach, one was revealed to Antoninus, and one was hidden for the tzaddikim. These are the three levels of chesed. V'hainu inyan gimel matmeni. Shnayim is galu. Two of them are revealed, which are Beis Shlishim HaMizgalim. The Shlish Elyon in the top third is the level of Chabad Shebayim Mechusim Enelam, which is concealed. It's a level of Ahava, which is concealed. V'yizgalu l'tzaddikim l'asud lavi. And be revealed for tzaddikim l'asud lavi. Like it says, Ar-Zarur la-Tzadik, V'hainu b'chinas Kadma, the of the first day, that you're able to see from one end of the world to the next, but it was too great for the world, so Hashem hid it. V'chol zahib in Yosef. Why did Yosef hide it? Because he's the level of Yesod that Chesed comes into. In other words, Yesod, the last level of Zoh, is a level that gets everything from Chesed into Gvor, into Tferes, into Nesach, into Yesod. Okay, that's the end of Zoh, the essence of Zoh, and then he's Mashpir that to Malchus. So Yosef, because he's the level of Yesod, Tzadik Yesod Elam, Yud Sod, like you explained before, the level of secrets. So Yosef takes all these levels of Chesed, two he reveals because two levels of Chesed are revealed, and the third level he hid lots of love for the tzaddikim.
Korach must have been very, very big. Korach, because he got all this hidden.
Yeah, and Haman got it from Korach. No, Yitzhak happens to be in the middle. Chesed Gvor Tiferet Netzach you say, but it's the middle that gets from everything from above. Okay, next Maimed. Skip the parentheses. Otais is biyur the mashakos al pasuk v'yigash. To understand what he explained before in the Maimed about Vayigash of Yehudah, that now, like the Mishkan, it's in order. Top is animal, then the plant, and then the earth. The Beis HaMikdash was only stone. Right? The whole Maimed from before. So he says, Be'inyan la'osid yaliyas ha'malchus l'mayla mizah. So the Rebbe explained in the previous Maimed that now Yosef is greater and Yehudah comes to Yosef. La'asad lavai is going to be the opposite. Malchus is going to be elevated to be higher than Zoh. So Malchus will be higher than Yosef. Therefore, la'asad lavai, Yosef is going to come to Yehudah. Yovim Mashakosa bebracha in the Nesuyim will understand it from the last bracha, Sheva brachas. What do you say? Meher Hashem lekeni yishama ba'ari Yehudah. Uvachutz is Yerushalayim baruch ato Hashem misamer chasin imakala. Right, the last bracha of Sheva brachas. Yes, so we say Meher Hashem lekeni yishama Hashem should hear ba'ari Yehudah v'chutz Yerushalayim. Okay, so he says v'tzarch lo v'natam L'shinoi loshen ha-brachas. In the Sheva brachas, the earlier bracha ends Mesamer chosen v'kala, and the last bracha Mesamer chosen im hakala. Why he says Shemetchilo ama Mesamer chosen v'kala, v'achach ama im hakala. right? What's the difference? The earlier is, it's either both say imakala or vechala. Igam tzarich lahavin, what does it mean? Kol chosin v'kol kala. So he says like this, when you know, this that it says in the earlier pasuk, that goes al. Now, what do we say in the last bracha? That's lost in loving. We're asking Hashem, right away we should already hear. So now, we say chosin v'chala. La'asad lava, we say chosin imakala. Why? Because ta'ayno acher shekvar ama. After he says, meheda yishama, hayno bebiyas goyol, then we're going to say imakala. Okay? Now he explains it. Lahav v'netam mipnei ma'amer Allah asadavka imakala. Why is Lasad Lavi? Do we say Dafka with the Kala, not Chos and the Kala? So he says like this. Ke'inyan yesh edesim v'nesuyin. There's, in the marriage process, okay, there's edesim, which is called the Kedushin, and then there's the Nesuyin. So halachically, simply, in the time of the Gemara says, Nesan P'sul Shnei Mosor Chedish, the Mishnah says, years ago, a boy wanted to marry a girl. He gave her a ring in front of two witnesses, said, and a year later they got married. Now, Edison, halachically, then I'll explain according to Chassidus. Edison means now the girl is bound to the boy. She cannot marry anybody else without a get, or if the guy pops off. But she cannot live with him, because they didn't have Nisuin yet.
Could not be touched.
No, it's like strangers. But the only thing is, now they're bound to each other, that if they want to break up, the Kala need to get. Okay? Nisuin is what allows them to now be together. So nowadays, we do it under the chuppah. We have two parts of the chuppah. We have what's called the Sidri Kedushin, and then the chassan gives the Kala ring in front of the two witnesses. That's part one. Then immediately we go to Nisuyin. Okay? Now, by the way, the reason why we read the Ksuba, we learned this. Why do we read the Ksuba? It's a financial document. It's anybody's business. The answer is you need to make a break between the Eidus and the Nisuyin. So how do you make a break? Instead of having the Rabbi Hakachaynik can speak, you read the Ksuba. There's a break between the, that's all it is. In fact, nowadays it's a very choshev kibbut to read the Ksuba. Years ago, the Shamus, there was not a kibbut at all. Like reading today, because nobody knows how to read it, so you give it, it's a choshev guy that reads the Ksuba. Okay, that's it. So he says like this.
Does it require a rabbi to do this, or anybody?
You have to. The Gemara says, "Kol mi she'nidei tiv getting the kedushin." Whoever doesn't know, in the essence of getting the kedushin, should not have any dealing with it. I know guys that really know how to learn; they'll never do a wedding, never, because there's a lot of complications in weddings and so on. Okay, whatever. So he says, "Olav and atam mipnei." Okay, yes, eirisim and isuin. Ki bizman hazeh is only eirisim. Even though Matan Torah was the chasana between the Yidden and Hashem, but in the whole picture of things, this is only the Eidison. He says, Torah tziva lanu meisha meirasha. The Medrash says, don't read it meirasha, ela mu'urasa, which is Eidison. That's only the level of Eidison. But Matan Torah, even though by Matan Torah, it says panim al panim dibar Hashem imachem, rag b'chinas chitzain is bolvad be'isiv v'het. It wasn't revealed the essence of Torah, Seidus of Torah. That's what the pasuk says. Torah chadashim me'iti teitzei. That refers to when Mashiach comes, There's going to be a total revelation of the secrets of Torah, Seidus HaTorah. But this is only Pnimis HaTorah, which is Ein Egalukisha B'Torah, Leinis Galos Adayin. It wasn't revealed. Then was only revealed to Yechidis Gula, Rashbi, that gang. Then the Arizal came, it says, Mitzvah L'Galu Zeis HaChochma, as a preparation for the wedding. Like you taste the food of Shabbos before Shabbos. What's that? So therefore it's Daim Lebchinas Edison. Shegam Sham Einanin Shechadaim Bepnimis. It's not an intimate relationship between Hashem and the Jews like wedding is. It's only hard Chitzanis. V'chol Ikar or Bechinas Makiv. It's only like Tabas Kedushin. In other words, like this. By Matan Torah, the shaykhs with Hashem and the Yidden, even though it says panim b'panim, but it wasn't in a pneumius. That's one of the reasons of Kabbalah why you use a ring. You have to give a kala shava pruta. Why do you dafka use a ring? Dafka ring. Why don't you give her whatever, an earring? I mean, what do you? Because the ring is makif, right? It's a gambit sefer kolamin. Av Allah will be Pnimis HaTorah. Shul Einig Elyon Shabbat, which is the ultimate secrets of Torah. Then it will be Bechinas Nesuyin. Begab Be'alech Asayach Ish and Diknas. Kinyin HaNesuyin Gam Ken Acher Shekvar Ba'ar Bechinas Pnimis. That's, by the way, in the Maimed that the Chassan, in the Chabad weddings, the Maimed that the Chassan says by the Kabbalah's Panim, which invites all the Rabbeim to the wedding and all that. So over there it says, first you have Badekanish. That's the Makif level. And that's all the preparation to the Nesuyin, which is the Pnimius level. Therefore, before you go to the Chuppah, you have Badekanish. That's a Maki, just covers her, with the veil. That's the level of Makif, and then you have the wedding, and then you have the chuppah with the Cheder Yichud and all that stuff.
This is the third.
What?
This is the third treasure of Yosef?
No, there's a different Maimer.
Oh, okay.
He's not talking about the treasure of Yosef. Now he's talking back what he said before, the first Maimer. But now Yehudah's going to Yosef, because Yosef is greater. Okay. Vine Yehudah, as it's known, the Beis, the Ke'es Begolus. Now that when in Golos, Malchus Mekabel Se'era Yidei, which gets Mekabel Ba'atzme Me'ema. Okay, according to Kabbalah, Bina comes into Zah, because Bina is the mother that creates the children, Zah, and then from Zah comes into Malchus. So now, Malchus, less la Megamba Klum, Malchus has nothing of its own, right? It only gets what from the higher levels. But so now Malchus receives some, that's why it says, David HaMelech, who personified and epitomized the level of Malchus, David HaMelech was supposed to be born a Bar Nafla. Supposed to be born stillborn. And Hashem, the Medrashim, both are right, and different themes, whatever. Hashem came to Adam Rishon and said, hey, I got a special neshama, but it's going to be born dead. So Adam Rishon said the pasuk in Tehillim, Yemeshin Eseinu Bahem Shivim Shana. So I'm donating 70 years of my life. Therefore, Adam Rishon lived 930 instead of 1,000, because 70 years he gave away to David HaMelech. In other places it says the three Avos together gave the 70 years. And it says in Chassidus both, what Pnimius, Chitzay, whatever, the way they go. But anyway, so the bottom line, why? Because Malchus has nothing of its own. Like the Levana has no light of its own, it only is the light that it reflects from the sun. Therefore it says, from Malchus of Chochmah comes Chochmah of Malchus. From Malchus of Bina comes Bina of Malchus. So, because it has nothing of its own.
Sometimes it says Bina comes into Zohar, sometimes it says Dad comes into Zohar.
Correct. And both are right, because Das, as the Alter Rebbe says in Perek Gimel of Tanya, Das is Kiyum Amidus. That without Das, Enam Kiyum Amiti.
So it's actually Bina
Bina's the mother, and then you have to bind yourself to the subject matter. That's the level of das. Okay, lots of loving. So now Malchus gets from higher. Then the pasuk says in Shlomo Melech and Shir Hashirim, in the crown that his mother gave him, that refers to the mother Bina, right? Ema banim smecha, mother giving chayas to the son. But also loving nama eshes chayal teres baila, shemalchus will be at teres baila zo. Shetisala yisel lemayla himenu. The malchus is going to go higher than zo, ki nor tzefim etchilas. Because the end is wedged in the beginning, so therefore in the end is really a higher level than the beginning. Zel tam lemay shomer zal atzidim tzadikim sheyem lefneim kodesh. Lots of lovely, the Medrash says, the asidim tzadikim, that people, they're going to say before the tzadikim the level of kodesh. So he says like this. Ata bizman hazeh, it says, mesamer chosin v'chala. Why? Means they're equal. Shakala mikabel sa'ur aydei chosin dezo. Because Sameach Chasan, the Chala. Because the Kala, Malchus, gets in the Chasan. Then it says, Mesameach Chasan ima Kala, Shayidei HaKala, Mesameach es HaChasan. In other words, now that basically Chasan gets, the Chasan gives to the Kala. The Kala is going to be Mesameach the Chasan. So Mesameach Chasan, the simcha of the Chasan is going to be ima Kala, for the Kala. Now in Golus says Nalamti Dumia. It says, the says, the pasuk says Nalamti Ile, means he became like a mute. Because it's the level of shtika, like a pasuk says, Ilaim lo yiftach pif. Because there's no gilui of elokus now, right? Dibur again is gilui.
But in Eshet Chayil?
What said Nalamti Dumia? No, it's the pasuk in Tillim, not Neshet Chayil. Or it's another pasuk in Tillim, Ilaim lo yiftach pif, like a mute that can't open his mouth. Again, what's dibur by elokus? Gilui, revelations. So now in Golus, there's no revelation of Elokus. Therefore, like it says, Golus is likened to pregnancy. Pregnancy, the whole baby's there, except you can't see it. Right? The din is interesting, especially according to Kabbalah. But even in Halacha, when the Chosin says, by lahavdil by the goyim, do you willingly accept it? I do. You know, they say I do, or I don't, whichever one they say. So in Torah you don't do that. The Kala doesn't say a word. The Kala doesn't say the Kala should say, yeah, I do. I mean, I agree. No, dafka not. It's the level of shtika, because Eresin is still the level of Golus. There's no gilu yet between the Chasan and Kala.
So if somebody wants to say, I need a little bit to believe, you have to step off the...
Nado, they went all the way at the end. Whatever. They shouldn't do that either. Anil L'Daydli is not so bad. A double ring ceremony that most people do, you know, the Chasan gives a Kala ring, the Kala gives a Chasan a ring, is a real, that's a deal breaker of doing a wedding, by the way.
If it's after chuppah?
So unless if they do it after the Sheva Brachas, you know, or better would even be after they break the glass. Now the wedding's over, Gandik. Breaking the glass is just to remember Yerushalayim. So then you could maybe, but you know, if a guy says, I want the rabbi under the chuppah, I want him to give her and her to give him a ring, he's not allowed to do the wedding. Why? Because then she thinks, okay, he's been doing it to me, I'm doing it to him, we're equal. It's not true. The man is Mekadesh the woman. Right?
And if they did it that way, do I have to do the chuppah again?
Not the chuppah, maybe the Kedushim. Maybe. But again, it's questionable. But the bottom line is, so when the Chassan gives the Kala to ring Edison, he says at the level of Golus. So therefore the Kala is quiet because Golus is Shtika. The Lamti Dumiyah. Ukamerikein Yuvan the Inyan Shemana Esrei Tzulei B'Chashoy. That's why Shemana Esrei, which is again the relationship between Hashem and the Jews, you have to do it quietly. Then the nukva, you don't have curl kala. Curl kala means the kala is revealing. That means the kala is mashpia. But that's only loss of loving. Now by Edison, it's mechasim the kala. But aval also k'tishul savali is bechinas mashpia. Lots will be mashpia. Like at charatzmei, then Shmanashe is going to be bekurl ram. The year curl kala, and then it'll be curl kala also. And we finish the Maimon. That's it. By the way, we learned the whole parsha. Anyway, that's the. So he says now, the difference between now Yosef and Yehudah now, what's going to be lost of loving, is the difference between Edison and Kedush and the Syrian.
What about Shmuel?
So lost of loving is going to be bekurl ram. Then it'll be curl kala. But in the Edison, which is the level of Golus, the Rebbe is saying over here, because that's what it says in Medrashim and definitely in Kabbalah. Matan Torah was only the Edison. Torah tzivala mu'urasa, meirasha, be the mu'urasa, because sin and samach are interchangeable. It's the kedusha between Hashem and the Jews. Therefore, the Gilu Pnimius HaTorah, the Pnimius Hamshacha between Chassan and Kala, which is marriage, will be lost of loving. By Torah Chadashim Iti Teitze. Okay, let's start by Yechi. We have 5 minutes. What? Yeah, but that's again the introduction to the level of the previous.
So the other level is
Nisuyin. And now it's only the level of Eris. But now we do what's called in the Havdah, in the secular world, they have wedding rehearsals, you they rehearse it. So now, out of Shabbos, you rehearse, you taste the food of Shabbos, so you have, but it's a whole process. Chuppah, the Rebbe Rashab writes in the Hemshech Samach to Samach, which is the memorial the Rebbe Rashab said at the Friedrich Rebbe's wedding. So there he speaks about the koich, at the time of a chuppah, the chuppah is super, super holy. Therefore, Marshal, even in the Frumme Welt, the chassan goes to the chuppah dancing, and to the badekenish dancing, mamish dancing, all the friends are dancing away. By us, we sing now the Rebbe's Nigman. I mean, it's very, very serious. Chuppah is very, very serious. Because the chuppah is bringing down the Kerch Ein Sof. The Rebbe Rashab says, having children is in a consistent reproduction is the Kerch Ein Sof. Because you have children, they have children, they have children, they have children, right? So it's Gili Ein Sof. So where does a Chassan Kala get the Koyach of that level? That's from the chuppah. Chuppah is the level of Makif, like Har Sinai, when it's, I tell you, Rabbi Parisher said, when a chassan goes to under the chuppah, it's like the Kohen Gadol going in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, and he finished, Sashad Mikita Sapakin for the hand. So shame is given over to a little kid in his hands. When I got married, there was an Alter Chassid, Rabbi Avram Mayor. He was very close with my father. Anyway, so after the Kabbalah's Panim, we're going to the Chuppah in 770. So he came over to me, he said, this Vart of Rabbi Hillel Parish, he said to me in Yiddish, he said, you should know that Rabbi Hillel Parish has said that Chassan going under the Chuppah is like the Kohen Gadol going in the Kodesh HaKadoshim and Yom Kippur. That's why it's Yom Kippur, but the Yom Kippur of your life is when you get married. Yeah? So then, he said, you should know you're going into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. And that gives you the koyach ein sof to give birth to banim b'nei banim eiskem atayra mitzvahs. To have, that's how the maimer of the wedding finishes. To be mamshach koyach ein sof, lehele banim ubanis, to give birth to that level.
Is that one reason why the chatan is fasting?
That has to do with fasting. It can also fast in our circle. What?
Why is the bear covered his not to see?
They learn it out from Rivka. Rivka covered her face with a veil. But again, it's a level of connection, of a makif level that's not internalized, that you see it. Spiritually speaking. Yeah, when she saw Yitzchak, when Eliezer, they came back and Yitzchak fell down from heaven, whatever. So she asked, who's this? So he said, this is your chassan. She covered herself with the veil. It's a sign of modesty. But in Primus Inyan, it's the level of makif. You're covering. It's helem. It's concealment. It's not primus. And then after the chuppah is over, she uncovers it.
But throughout the whole ceremony,
It's covered.
In Iran, we didn't have this.
No, so... No, by us, the chuppah is, afterwards it's very lively, but the chuppah itself is very, very serious. We don't go dancing around by the chuppah. Chuppah, you go down to Rabbi Znign, you're going seriously.
Somebody who's decided Kedushin must know the whole Inyan.
Yeah, there's a lot to know to be Masada Kedushin. That's only the actual wedding. And until the wedding, making sure they're Jewish. There's tons of stuff to know.
Especially signing the ketubah.
Huh?
Signing of the ketubah.
That's nothing.
They do it by mistake.
Okay.
I book in Shabbos.
What are you saying? You didn't have any of these? You had a lot of it.